Blog Talk
Good
Radio.
evening, everyone. This is Kendra here from Surprise Your Spirit. I am here on this wonderful Tuesday evening. I've got my cup of tea now that it is fall here and the weather is not that great. Getting a little chilly. So I'm here this evening to chat about numbers and their energies and the messages that you can receive from them once you learn a little bit about numbers. This is something that I get asked about often. It's probably something that people will notice quite a bit in their daily lives, but call it coincidence or something of the sort. Now, I don't really believe in coincidence. I believe in synchronicities. Look up the word, check it out. Numbers can be used to help us to pay attention to what we are currently manifesting or what might be coming to fruition at this time for us. So feel free to call in while I'm live here. I'll take your calls. You can call in to 914-338-1994. But remember, if you're listening to the podcast version, obviously, you won't get through to me. Now, when we talk numbers, every number has a base energy. Now, just like any of my spiritual teachings that I teach about anything, you really have to trust your intuition as you walk through and learn about numbers. So sometimes journaling helps to help you understand what numbers mean for you. I'm going to go through 1 through 9 and tell you a little bit about each number and their base meanings. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about a few different combinations of numbers and why that's important. Now, before we get into the actual numbers and their energies and their base meanings, we really need to learn a little bit about the sequencing. Okay, so if you have numbers that are in ascending order, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's an indication that things are moving forward. It's an indication of improvements. It's an indication of, heading in the right direction. Those sorts of energies. Now, the more numbers that you have in that ascending sequence, so 1, 2, 3, the energy is just kind of there. On it's not as strong. 1, 2, 3, 4, it's stronger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the energy is stronger. So the more numbers in ascending sequential order that you have together, the stronger that energy is. Okay. So when you see ascending numbers, you might want to stop, pay attention to your thoughts, look at what you're doing in your life, how are your emotions, and really pay attention to what's going on around you, because it is telling you that something in that moment in time is moving forward for you. Maybe something you've been thinking about, maybe you've started a new business and you're starting to see ascending sequential numbers, and that's telling you your business is, moving ahead. The energies are assisting you with forward movement. Maybe you've been praying for things to get better, like maybe you were in a moment of prayer or just thinking about when are things getting better, and you see ascending sequential numbers. That could be an indication from your spirit team that things are in fact improving and heading in a direction that you will feel better about. Now, if they are descending sequential numbers, so 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, that means that we have some backwards energy. Or, it might indicate you're falling into old patterns, or it might indicate that something from your past is coming back into your life. So you may be revisiting a pattern or behavior that you haven't quite broken. You may need to close a chapter of your life, or it simply might be an indication that you need to slow down or you need to pull back from something. Now, another interesting thing, and it's the same thing with descending sequential numbers, is that the more numbers, the more forceful the energy is. Okay, so just being aware that the energy is greater the more the numbers. Now, when we have numbers together, we'll just use an example of, like, say 9. Say we have 99, and then all of a sudden you see 999, and then you see 9,999. The more the same number that you have side by side means the harder that energy is vibrating. Okay? So it's really important to pay attention. Then you can have numbers, combination of numbers, which I'll get into a little bit later, but just understanding that the more numbers that you have together side by side, so for instance, if you have like 91919191, those nines aren't as powerful as they would be if they were 99991111. Okay, so just having a base understanding about that. Now I'm going to hop right into the numbers, talk a little bit about that. So we're going to start with number 1. So number 1 is a number of manifestation. It's a number of creation. It's a number of new beginnings, new starts. It's also a number that is directed and closely reflects your thought energy. Okay. The thing about ones is, and we need to remember that numbers, have a feel-good side to them and a not feel-good side, or you could say positive or negative, but, if you've been following me for a long time, you've heard me have some discussions around positive and negative and why I choose not to use those terms. So, ones are, like I said, fresh starts, new beginnings. It may be that it's really about a number of creations. So the more ones you have together might be an indication that you're really, really in manifestation mode, and if you have greater numbers, then if you have greater the amount of numbers together, the greater or the faster that manifestation is going to come to fruition. So the greater you're going to see it, arise in your reality. So it's really important to know those things, because when we see a lot of ones together in a bunch, we really need to pay attention to our thoughts and feelings and our emotions. Where is our time, our energy, and our intentions and our attention going, okay, because we are creating fast. So really, really pay attention to that. Now, if we move on to the 2s, I'm just going to have a sip of tea here. If we move on to the number 2, 2s are all about partnerships, okay? So remember I said partnerships. So not necessarily relationships, but I guess partnerships and relationships could be interchangeably used. The only thing that I really, I tend to shy away from the word relationship just because people tend to associate that word with romantic relationships, when in fact relationships can, involve friendships, familial relationships, co-worker relationships, boss employee. It can also relationships. You can have a relationship with food. You can have a relationship with money. All right. So you can also have a partnership with food and a partnership with money. So this just really, 2s are about all relationships. Okay. Now, the only thing that you have to be careful with is with the number 2. It can be used in your relationship with yourself. However, in my personal being and how I'm guided through my guides, your relationship with yourself would come into the number 3. So I'm just going to talk about relationships with other people, places, things, or situations with regards to the number 2. All right. So, the more 2s you have together, it means that something is changing in a particular relationship in your life. Now remember, it could be feel good and it could be not feel good. So you really need to pay attention to what's going on around you and what's happening in your relationships in your life as well, to know what that message is for you, and also know what the other numbers mean, because if it's mixed with other numbers, then you might need to pay attention to that as well. Now, when we move on to 3s, so 3s are, they have a few different meanings. So I'm going to give you some base meanings. And then, like I said, you always need to trust what you know and trust your intuition with what message you're trying, to Spirit's trying to convey to you, or the universe is trying to show to you. So 3s can be about celebrations. They can be about your partnership with yourself, so mind, body, spirit. So your relationship with yourself, self-love. They can be about community, networking. So it's important to know those base meanings. And I mean, anything else you associate with 3s can be fantastic as well. Moving on, we get to 4s. Now, 4s are often connected to angels or your spirit team. Okay, so assurance that you are being protected and guided. 4 is a number of security, stability, groundedness. Okay, so that's what 4s are for. 5s are the number of change. Okay, so 5s represent change. So if you see 5, 5, 5, 5, 5s, you better really look at your thoughts, or where you are, what you're currently doing in that moment, and know that there is change coming. Spirit or the universe is trying to tell you that change is coming, somewhere. They're trying to get your attention. We move on through to 6s. Now, when we get to 6s, you'll hear a few different things. 6s can represent love. And I'm not going to get into that too much, because unconditional love is a hard concept for most humans. We think we know what it is, but as soon as we have any expectations attached, it's not there. But 6 can be a number representing love. However, for the most part, 6 is a representation of the material world here. All right. So, anything tangible. So when we talk numbers and spirituality, we know that we have other dimensional realms that we associate with, and 6 would be associated with anything in this 3D reality here that we can, touch, feel, taste, see here. Often 6s are maybe connected to finances as well. So when we move along to 7s, 7 is a spiritual number. It is, it represents your spiritual path, your spiritual journey, your own personal spiritual growth. And so it's important to know that, because if you're seeing a lot of 7s together, then you are, being asked to look at something with regards to your spirituality. And we need to be reminded that spirituality is not religion. They are very, very different things. Okay? So please do listen to a discussion that Tiffany and I have on one of our Wednesday night shows that is podcasted around spirituality versus religion. It's a really good show to help people understand the difference. One is not good, one is not bad. It's just important to know that they are different. So that is about sevens. Now, when we move along into eights, eights represent infinity. Okay. They represent, all time, space, and reality. Eights represent abundance. And that just doesn't mean finances, because our human selves tend to get caught up in thinking that abundance is finances and only finances. It may, represent other material things. It may represent harmonious, having abundance and harmonious relationships, feeling really great and successful in your job, feeling successful in your life, just feeling an overall abundance. And like I said, it can represent infinity. So, it can represent the universe showing you that you are not a finite being, that you are infinite, and that you can have anything that you dream of because of that. When we move on through nines, nines represent endings. Okay, so it is a representation that endings are coming, that you're in the final stages of something, that you'll be moving on through into something new very soon, that a cycle will be closing out. 10 equals a closing out of a cycle, okay? Nines also represent independence, all right? They also represent, the need to stop doing something. And tens represent the closing out. Zeros represent cycles. It's important to know that. Now, when we have numbers, we can, always add them up to help us get more clarity about things. So if we have a 1 plus a 3, to me that would be you're manifesting something in your relationship with yourself. I'm having a better mind, body, spirit connection, and 1 plus 3 equals 4. So you would be getting more stable, or maybe the stability of your mind, body, spirit connection needed attention. So you can add things up. You can, look at what the numbers are all together, figure out what that means for you, then add them up to find, the base energy to put your story together. Now, a few number sequences that are really common and we really need to take a look at that you might see. So if you see 6969, contrary to some of the beliefs out there where people might have their minds in the gutter, it is not a sexual number. 69, because 6 and 9s, when they are made rounded and they fit together, they look like a yin yang, so they represent balance. Okay. Now, if you have 96, 96, that would represent being out of balance. Now, if you do see 69, 69, say, you went to the store and purchased something and it was 69, 69, that really just means that it's giving you a message about something being in balance or out of balance in your life, because you have to remember that those numbers can have feel-good aspects or not feel-good aspects. 6s and 9s together, often have to do with finances and endings, something ending with finances. However that works for you. I can't tell you exactly what it means, because you would need to know what it means for you. I'm just trying to think of some other things. I had my mom call me one time in a panic, and she is a little bit skeptical about what I do and my abilities. However, she started to have some, spiritual insights and notice things like signs and synchronicities and number sequences. And she texted me in a panic and she said, "Oh my goodness, I seen this number sequence. Does this mean I'm going to die?" And I said, "No, it doesn't actually, Mom. It just means that you're out of balance." But she was starting to notice them more and more because the universe was trying to get her attention. And, it kind of overwhelmed her and freaked her out. So don't let numbers overwhelm you. Be honest with yourself about what comes to you when you see these numbers, and then, do something about it. Let them help you make choices. Let them help to guide you through your journey. Understand the universe is showing you these things to help, make your journey better here, to help you have more joy, to help you make better choices, to get down, smoother paths, and to have less less to be involved in less situations that create challenges that didn't need to be there if you were listening to your intuition. So, again, just in closing, remember that it is so important to understand that the more numbers you have together, the stronger that energy is, and it's important, and it's important for you to understand, and it's up to you to take responsibility in being honest with yourself on whether you're getting feel good aspects for those numbers or not feel good aspects. There is you can look. The other thing I want to talk about is you can Google number sequences if you start seeing sequences quite often. But the thing is, if that message doesn't resonate with you, then you're missing a message. And spirit/the universe will keep showing you those numbers until you get the message. So you can Google them, but that's someone else's interpretation. You really need to dive deep and tap into your own intuition and be honest with yourself. However, looking up numbers and finding some guidance and doing the work to learn what those numbers mean for you in conjunction with your guides is up to you. So it takes time, but if you are seeing them, I can guarantee you that spirit or the universe is trying to deliver messages to you. Now, we can get messages through a number of ways, often on receipts, on the clock, on license plates, on billboards. You might hear someone say number sequences over and over and over. The thing about the clock is that once you see it once without looking for it, you might catch yourself looking for those numbers, and then that's not a message, okay? It's when you're going about your business and things just start happening that you're just noticing it, that's a message. So it's learning that too, because sometimes when you start to notice these synchronicities and these messages trying to be shared with you, you get caught up in it, so then you start to look for them. But you have to be careful that, the spirit realm is using earthly validations to reach you, and not all earthly validations are messages. So just being super careful about that. So that's just a caution to everyone about that. So just in recap, remember that the more numbers, the more repeating of one number side by side means that energy is greater. Remember about the ascending sequential numbers, and that it means things forward movement. And the more numbers in that sequence, the stronger that energy is. Same with descending sequential numbers. Patterns, is telling you something about a pattern, and then looking at those numbers and what they mean uh, to decipher what area of your life, Spirit is asking you to look at a pattern in, those types of things. So I hope that this has been helpful for everyone, and I hope that this can help you in deciphering some of the messages that you might be receiving, because maybe your spirit team has been trying to give you messages through other sources and you've been oblivious, or you've dismissed them as coincidence and not realized that they're actually synchronicity and they're important. So they, your spirit team will try to give you messages through one way, and if you miss the message a million times, and they try another way until they can make it really, really obvious, until they have to hit you on the head to wake you up. So I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that if anyone has questions, please feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. I'm at Surprise Your Spirit. You can comment below this podcast here. You can email me at Kendra@surpriseyourspirit.com, and I'd be very happy to address questions or do another podcast answering some questions that come along with this. So thanks so much for joining me here this evening. And if you're listening to the podcast at a later date and time, thanks so much for tuning in. If it's been helpful for you, please like, share, and subscribe, and keep coming back and seeing what else I have on the channel here. And if there's another topic you'd like me to do a show on, that will be podcasted. If you can't catch the live show, please send me those ideas to Kendra@surpriseyourspirit.com, and I will work them into my schedule because it's my job to serve you all. Take care and have a really great evening.